Trav, this time next week,
yes,
we'll be warming up for the NFL season to kick off. Thursday night, Ravens and Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Who you got in that game?
Chiefs. Still -3 right now. I would take the Chiefs -3. I mean, you want the 2.5 obviously at that number, but once it goes to 3.5, a lot of people are going to grab Chiefs -3.
Man,
that's when it'll get interesting, bro.
You know I'm crazy, and you know they call me Moneyline Trav out here on these streets. I think I'd take the Ravens. Moneyline +130. I mean, look, it's a regular season.
If you're going to go, I like moneyline.
It's a regular season. This is what the Ravens do. They win regular season games, and then when it counts, they disappear. I like the Ravens on the road.
We'll get more into that. We're going to go through division winners, conference winners, Super Bowl winners today. A full football all across the league show here on Foxboro Rush. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Prime, please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Yep. If you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Nesson's Twitch, hit the subscribe button as well. Trav, let's get right into it with the AFC East, my man.
Let's do it.
Who is your pick to win the division of the AFC East?
Well, I know he's been talking all spicy mouth lately, but I do believe that Tua and the Dolphins will win the division. This is based off of what I saw last season. They really choked it away at the end. The Bills were playing like trash all year, suddenly got hot at the end. Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the first 5 minutes of the season. The Patriots were a mess. The Dolphins were running away with the division. But much like teams who aren't used to winning, you have to learn how to win. And so down the stretch, the Bills, who are accustomed to winning and closing, knew how to do it. They didn't panic. They got hot. Really one of the hottest teams in the league. As the season started to wane, the Dolphins were like, oh, crap, they're on our heels, and they choked it away. Still made the playoffs as a wild card team. We know the rest of that story. But I thought the Dolphins were the best team in the division last season anyways. So now, with that experience, Tua not having that contract hanging over his head, just another season with all these players in that Mike McDaniel system you and I always talk about, which we know is great. I think it's the Dolphins' time. And not only do I believe they win the division, I would not be shocked and have bet my own personal money that the Dolphins are the #1 seed in the AFC. Now, does this mean a Super Bowl? Not no, but hell no. However, I do believe they'll have a chance to be the top team in the AFC. I will take the Dolphins to not only win the division, but to run away with it. None of those things I said are going away. I don't think the Bills did not play well all last season until the end. They had to get hot for them to get in and win, really steal the division towards the end. And this is not the same Bills team in a bad way. I mean, they've lost a lot of pieces, including Stephon Diggs. I think they take a step back. I don't trust Aaron Rodgers, healthy or not, as far as I can throw him, and the New York Jets. And the Patriots, we all understand, are still a work in progress. I think the Dolphins run away with this division, George.
Man, I like that. Looking at odds on FanDuel, Miami plus 240 to win the AFC East. Yeah, Patriots 24-1. You're not going to take that. Look, the Pats are going to win 3 or 4 games. No one's picking them. I don't like the Bills. I think they're in a soft rebuild, and I say soft rebuild of they let Stephon Diggs go.
Yep.
They shed a lot of fat from the back end of their defense that was getting older. They're dealing with bad contracts on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And we'll see with Joe Brady now being the full season play caller. That does cause a little bit of less passing plays for Josh Allen, less explosive plays. But still, the Bills have the best quarterback in the division. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go to the Jets. I'm going to go back to the well I did last year. We'll see what Olu Fashanu has dealing with a strained elbow. But Robert Saleh said it shouldn't be anything serious. You went out, drafted Malachi Corley. You signed Mike Williams. You have Breece Hall against this good offensive line. And I think what they got last year, Trav, in the Jets was a piping hot mug of humility. Yeah. Because everything that happened, they were talking Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, nonstop, all throughout the building, which is fine. When you sign Aaron Rodgers to that contract, especially, that's what the expectations are. Right. When you get one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. But then everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But they returned a great defense. And Travis, this was a team that won 7 games with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle as their starting quarterback. So if you get a not even top 5, but a top 10 production of Aaron Rodgers, when I'm saying quarterbacks overall in the league, who still is Aaron Rodgers. And we could have the opinions of him in the playoffs, but we're looking at who's winning the division in the regular season. I just like this Jets team. Now, the Dolphins or Jets, will be who wins this division, T. The issue I have, Miami's last 6 games of the season, at Green Bay, home against the Jets, at Houston, home against San Fran, at Cleveland, at the New York Jets. So you have 1, 2, 3 cold weather games, including Cleveland and at New York and at Green Bay late in the season. Really cold weather games for Tua in that offense. At Houston, which is going to be a great defense.
Yep.
And yes, you're coming from the West Coast, but that's San Fran. I can see the Dolphins only winning 1 game out of that 6-game span. And I think that's where the division can be decided for the AFC East.
Well, we both agree on this because I there's no shot I agree with you with anything Aaron Rodgers being top 10 anything at this stage of his career. But you and I both agree that the Bills take a step back, and that's a big thing here. You know, I'm at the point, George, I not only believe the Bills will not win the division, I don't think they're going to be a wild card team either. I mean, you look at how deep the AFC is. Now, Josh Allen, Lord knows, is talented enough to almost will that team in. Yeah. And we saw that in a lot of ways last season. But again, this Bills team's not even as good as they were last season, and they weren't great then. So how much willing can you do? I think it's going to be obvious to everyone involved that Josh Allen continues to be an elite quarterback, and maybe in this league that gets you, 9 wins. But look, I mean, there's another team I'm going to talk about later that had 9 wins last season in the Cincinnati Bengals without Joe Burrow, and they didn't make the playoffs. Yep. So I could see a world in which this team, the Colts won 9 games last season, didn't make the playoffs. I could see a world in which maybe the Bills do have a winning record per se, 9-8, but it's all because of Josh Allen. And they miss the postseason, which, by the way, could get their head coach fired. I think, no one's talking about it, but he should be on the hot seat. I mean, at what point, going back to that 13 seconds game against the Chiefs, at what point do you start holding Sean McDermott really accountable for the regression of the Buffalo Bills since that 13-second game? It makes you think that was maybe their chance, and the championship window has closed. And I know a lot of people will say, well, if you have Josh Allen, your championship window is always open. Not true, okay? They lost a ton of pieces on that defense this offseason. They've never had a run game to speak of, and now Stephon Diggs is gone. I just think it's time for the Bills to take a don't even make the playoffs step back, and then I think they'll evaluate their head coach and probably move on.
Yeah, his defense, as a defensive-minded head coach, his defense always coming up short in the playoffs, blowing games. I'm with you. I think his seat should be red hot. All right, let's look to the AFC North.
Yep.
Man, this could be a division that could get all 4 teams in. I mean, no, it's impossible. Not impossible. They could get all their teams in, 1 division winner, 3 wildcard teams. That's how good they are. Yep. I think it's impossible. I don't think the Steelers will be that good. But anyhow, who do you think wins the AFC North?
Well, I'm going to go Ravens for everything we talked about off the top of the show and why I'm picking them against the Chiefs on opening night. It's just a regular season. They are so good. John Harbaugh has those guys ready to rock and roll from the preseason all the way through the regular season. And then for some reason, once they get in the playoffs, it just doesn't work out. And they almost forget who they are identity-wise. But I'll take the Ravens here simply because it's a safe bet, because that's what they always do, as we said, win regular season games. But also, last season I went all in on the Cincinnati Bengals. And, George, I mean all in on the Cincinnati Bengals. And the only thing that stopped me was Joe Burrow getting hurt, which is pretty much what stops the Bengals, right? That team still managed to win 9 games.
Yeah.
So I am going to take the Bengals to push the Ravens here. I don't necessarily believe in the Steelers at all. I just think I would personally start Justin Fields, to be honest with you, but I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go in. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and act like Justin Fields is the second coming of anything good. So I don't believe in them. I also simultaneously have zero faith in Deshaun Watson at all. Like zero.
I'm done with him.
So I can't believe in the Browns, even though their roster's ridiculous.
And that defense is one of the best in the league.
The whole roster's good, but I just don't believe in their quarterback, so I'm taking them out. I think this is a 2-horse race. If Burrow can stay upright, the Bengals could win this division. What I'm not going to do this season is the same thing I did last season where I made a big mistake and put all my eggs in that Bengals basket. No shot I'm doing that. I'll roll with the safe choice here, and that's the Ravens.
I think it's Ravens of this will be Lamar Jackson year 2 in Todd Monken's system.
Yeah.
You hope you have Mark Andrews for 17 games, but you can use that for any player.
Right.
Zay Flowers making the sophomore season jump after being a great rookie that had his shortcomings at moments.
Yep.
But again, this was a top 2 defense with one of the best secondaries in the league. And with a guy like Anthony Hamilton at safety, I mean, that brings so much to the table for Baltimore.
Yep.
And you see it too. If you look at the odds again on FanDuel, Ravens plus 145, Bengals plus 165, then Browns plus 450, Steelers plus 750. So the line is drawn after the Ravens and Bengals. Browns I don't trust to be a threat at all because I don't trust Deshaun Watson. And them losing Joe Flacco this offseason could be detrimental to them.
Yep.
Nick Chubb is coming off another major injury. And I just think with as great of a defense as that is, I just don't trust who they have at quarterback. But if you go with Ravens or Bengals in this one, you have the 2 best quarterbacks in the division and 2 of the top quarterbacks in the AFC outside of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen as well. So we start right there. I go Ravens, but it will be tight on this one, Trav. And I'm surprised it's only 20 cents that separates the Ravens and Bengals, but I understand. Look, the Ravens lost their defensive coordinator in McDonald. They lost their defensive line coach, Anthony Weaver, who became the DC for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So there might be, and there should be, a natural regression by this Ravens team. Mm-hmm. But when you have a 2-time MVP, again, second year in a Todd Monken system that allows him to be an even better passer as Lamar Jackson has continued to grow and grow and grow, I would love to see him get it done in the playoffs, but we're talking winning divisions. We're talking regular season here. I'm going to bet on Lamar, and that's with me trusting this front office, which is one of the best. I think the Ravens have a much better defense than the Bengals, and they have the best player out of both these teams when you look offensively in Lamar Jackson. Of course, the Bengals with the threat of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow is better, but also we don't know what may happen with this Jamar Chase contract and how it may linger into the regular season. We'll get to your favorite division now, man. AFC South. Because your second favorite team outside of whoever you root for, your home team. Now, you're DMV. Are you Ravens or are you Washington?
I mean, I cover both teams, so I don't really care. You know, I tell you who I root for. Whoever's covering the spread for me, that's who I root for. Now, I'll say this. One of my favorite bets to make really all off season long leading up to the NFL season is the Colts to make the playoffs. So one way or the other, I think I'm going to cash this, whether they win the division or they're a wild card. But I believe wholeheartedly the Indianapolis Colts will make the postseason. So for the sake of you and I's conversation, I'll take them here to win the South. Here's why. Think about this. There was one game that separated the 3 teams in this division that we're going to talk about, because even though the Titans have added some offensive weaponry for Will Levis, they have an offensive-minded coach, the whole deal, we don't know if Will Levis can play or not yet, okay? So the Titans could be improved, but I'm guessing neither one of us thinks that they're going to win the division. So really, we're only talking Texans, Jags, and Colts here. Last season, one game separated those 3 teams. The Colts were 1 game behind both the Texans and the Jaguars. And, oh, by the way, the Texans had a guy named C.J. Stroud that now we've all heard of, and the Jaguars had Trevor Lawrence, who got paid this offseason. The Colts, their starting quarterback got hurt 5 minutes into the season, it felt like. He played a month, Anthony Richardson I'm talking about, and then he was out. And then they rolled with Gardner Minshew the rest of the way and damn near made the postseason. They were without Jonathan Taylor, running back as well, first 4 games of the season. So I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, okay, C.J. Stroud now in year 2, so every defensive coordinator has studied his every move and is going to be prepared for him this season. Life's going to be a little tougher. Not saying he's not great, but life's going to be a little tougher for C.J. Stroud this season. Trevor Lawrence, I'm still not convinced. And I don't really think the Jaguars should have even given him that extension yet. They should have made him prove it this season. But regardless, you have a coach there in Doug Peterson whose seat's preheating a bit. You have, even though he got paid, a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence to deliver, probably more pressure now that he did get the bag. And Anthony Richardson's back for the Colts. And even if he gets hurt or he stinks, now you got Joe Flacco waiting in the wings. I think that's an upgrade.
I don't know if he's got it in him again, T.
Well, we'll see. Maybe. We may not have to. I mean, if Richardson can play, he has a case to be right in here with these quarterbacks I'm talking about, Stroud, Lawrence. So I believe in the Colts. Well coached, solid defense, solid weapons, excellent at running back, and now a second-year quarterback who's still trying to figure it out. But in a small sample size of what we saw of him before he got hurt, he looked really good. I like the Colts.
Colts to make the playoffs, by the way, plus 148. So you can pick them to win the division, plus 310. These odds on FanDuel.
Yep.
Or if you just say, hey, they get in as a wild card team, plus 148, basically cutting those odds in half. But it's plus money. I don't hate it.
Yep.
Hate to go chalk here. I'm just going to go Texans. You're betting on a quarterback that you say, well, he showed us he was good for 4 games. And you know what? If he doesn't work out, then I'm going to go with Joe Flacco, who's off the couch once again. I'm going to go with the guy that looked fantastic in every game he played last season. That's C.J. Stroud, who was the prolific best rookie quarterback we've ever seen. They're plus 105, according to FanDuel, to win the division. But I'm not making a bet here. I'm making a pick, and I will pick the Texans. They added Joe Mixon in the backfield. Oh, yeah, they brought in Stephon Diggs, who's a wide receiver 2 or 3. They paid Nico Collins. But this is a second-year maturation for C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell, who was handpicked in the draft by C.J. Stroud.
That's right.
And both of them in Bobby Slowick's system. Then they go out and into the draft, add Kalen Bullock, the safety out of USC, to already talented secondary, signed Danielle Hunter from the Vikings to bolster up their pass rush opposite of Will Anderson Jr., who is a fantastic rookie as well. This is a team that's well ahead of schedule. They got Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame to now be their right tackle. Like, they upgraded the offensive line. Okay. They upgraded the receiver room. Okay. They upgraded their running back room, who's going to have plenty of space to work with those empty boxes because of the threat of the pass. All right. Sounds good.
Yep.
They have a guy that's going to be a future head coach, Bobby Slowick. Cool. Upgraded their secondary, upgraded their defensive line. My worry is the ego that could be down in Houston. I said it with the Jets. There was too much Super Bowl talk, right?
Yep.
Like making it too big.
Yep.
How far ahead of the skis are the Houston Texans? I don't know, but
Right.
I will bet on C.J. Stroud to win the division. It's plus 105. I mean, that's plus money. But everything that lines up for this team, where you have DeMeco Ryans has no problem taking care of his defense. Bobby Slowick will go out and run the offense. And what we've seen from C.J., what we've seen from his receivers, where they got better. And now Stephon Diggs doesn't have to be the 1. He could be the 2 or the 3. He'll most likely be the 2. They just got better everywhere. And I just saw for such a big sample size, it's tough for me not to go with the Texans. I hate going chalk, but it's tough for me not to go with the Texans. The Jaguars out there, that's the wild card in all this.
Yeah.
Does Trevor Lawrence stay healthy? Getting Gabe Davis,
Does he
but then
get
also
better?
getting a rookie and Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, right? How do they do? To me, though, I do like that Colts play. If you get 17 games from Anthony Richardson and he learns how to avoid hits, how to avoid contact, but still be his sick athletic self and continue to get the most out of guys like Michael Pittman and Josh Downs and Jonathan Taylor, that offense could be great, but it's a Texans defense that is a separator for me in this division. All right, rounding out the AFC.
All right.
This is the easiest pick.
Yes.
West.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Chargers could be in play for a wild card, but I just feel like the Chiefs are going to win the division.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not betting against Mahomes ever again. I've done that enough in my life. It's not going to happen. The Raiders inexplicably did not figure out the quarterback situation. Gardner Minshew's just not enough as far as I'm concerned. I thought that's a team that should have really went out and addressed quarterback. They did not do that. Because of that, I'm punting on them. I'm a Bo Nix guy, but there's just not enough there in Denver for me to think they're a legitimate threat. Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes, and he has Justin Herbert. So even with the lack of weapons, I could see the Chargers sort of figuring it out, a way to get into the postseason maybe. But as far as winning the division, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, and there's really nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, it's Bo Nix or Zach Wilson.
Right.
No. Raiders, right. They should have got a quarterback, but they were picking so late in the first round. They missed on all the good guys, so it's AOC or Gardner Minshew.
Straight up.
Gardner Minshew for them. It's Chiefs. And they just won back-to-back Super Bowls, but none of their major coordinators left. They still have Big Red. They still have Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And their receiving room got better. Like, what? They just signed Creed Humphrey to the biggest deal ever for a center. What? I know they lost guys from the secondary.
Yeah.
But it's that balance of This division being weak and the Chiefs being the best team in the AFC, we keep it simple. Now, if you were to bet, I mean, it's minus 270, but like, I'm not saying you go out and you bet $270 to get 100 back.
No.
But maybe if you see what the odds could be for them to be the number one seed in the AFC, maybe you go that route. But it's very simple. AFC West, Chiefs are going to win this one. That and the North are the only two that we've been on matching on so far.
Yep.
Now let's flip it over to the NFC. Let's go back to the East. NFC East, who do you like?
I like the Eagles. I mean, I think you could make the real case on paper. The Eagles are the most talented team in the NFL. If you just look at their roster, again, on paper, without watching a game, and you're kind of checking boxes, I don't know if you're going to find many better rosters than the Eagles. Now, I have some questions about their head coach, Nick Sirianni. I have some questions about their quarterback now, Jalen Hurts, which I didn't have coming into last season. But after watching last season, first of all, he was banged up all year and dealing with injuries. Secondly, I hated the way he acted. It was so strange. Like, all of a sudden, this guy, he's sulking on the sidelines. He's got the towel over his head. He's not talking to teammates. After, the game, he's blown off the media. And I'm like, well, where's all the heartfelt pump-up speeches that we saw before? And you're this great leader and all that. Is that fugazi? Was that BS? So I have questions about that. But if both of those guys can sort of get in line, and we also heard the reports that they were beefing, Sirianni and Hurts last season. If they could just come together, sing Kumbaya, hug it out, and they're on the same page, I think the Eagles win this division going away. The Giants are a mess. The Commanders are in a rebuild. And do you trust the Cowboys? I never do. So I'll go Eagles here. I think much like the Chiefs, I think they're going to run away with the division. I don't believe it's going to be particularly close. They got a lot better this offseason.
Yeah, it's part weak division, part great team. I mean, look at their receiving room. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, just added Jahan Dotson.
Yep.
Got Saquon Barkley now in that backfield with Jalen Hurts. And now you have Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. You mentioned Sirianni and Jalen Hurts not getting along. Well, Kellen Moore can be that buffer between the two of them.
Could.
And it's really, there's certain aspects of it. It sounds so simple. And it's crazy to say this about a head coach, but can Nick Sirianni get out of his own way?
Right.
And can he just maintain that this locker room has the right mindset, the good chemistry, and they're so locked in on winning, and they block out the noise? And again, this was another team where they came up short in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It was all about getting back there.
Yep.
You go so far. You lose in the Super Bowl. The next season, you don't even come close.
Right.
Like you were terrible all year long.
Right.
Both coordinators are gone on both sides. You bring in Vic Fangio, who's one of the best DCs. You bring in Kellen Moore, who's a good schemer and who has led a top 10 passing offense twice in his 10 years as an offensive coordinator at his last two teams. And then again, with the weak division, I just like what the Eagles have built up, and I just hate how this NFC East is built out. And I'm a bigger believer in this Eagles roster as a whole than I am for the Dallas Cowboys. So again, we're matching on this one. I like Eagles in the NFC East. What about NFC North? This is tough for you. So the folks that listen, they know this, but if you're first time listening to Foxboro Rush, Travis is the mayor of
Kingstown.
He's the mayor of Detroit when it comes to the Lions.
I am.
He's a mayor of Orlando when it comes to the Orlando Magic. But he's also the mayor of wherever Caleb Williams is.
The president.
Because that's his future multi-Super Bowl, multi-MVP,
right.
first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
But you got to pick between your two loves, the Lions and the Bears. Who do you pick to win this division?
Okay, so let me first.
Like how I knew it's going to be one of those two, too?
Very good.
Like, I'm not even bringing in it's Green Bay. I know it's going to be one of those two.
I will say this. I believe the Super Bowl representative from the NFC comes out of this division.
Wow.
And it ain't the Vikings. Okay, so you have three options. You have
Sam Darnold, no?
Right. You have your Green Bay Packers, which I will not bat an eye at. If they win this division, if they win the NFC, no problem. Kudos to George for calling it. I wouldn't be shocked at all. They have a legitimate shot. The Chicago Bears with now finally, I mean, in their franchise's history, forget this season, in their history, they have a kid who can play since probably, the 50s or 60s at the quarterback position. I'm not even kidding. I think you had to go back that far.
Insane.
So they finally have a quarterback. Their defense is going to be just fine. They can run the ball. They have weapons. You need the right guy under center. They finally got that right. I believe the Bears will be a wild card team. So if they get hot, and they go on a run, and they won the NFC, I wouldn't be shocked. But my pick is the Detroit Lions. And the reason why is because they should have been in the Super Bowl last season, and I can't let it go. And no one's talking about it. I'm sure in Detroit they're talking about it, but no one outside of Detroit. It's like people forget they were in the NFC title game and should have won it if the coach kicks field goals instead of going for it on every single stinking fourth down that presents itself. Now, I love Dan Campbell. As a gambler myself, I love the gambling mentality of going for it. We're going to be tough. Remember his introductory press conference. He said we were going to bite kneecaps. We're going to be crazy. He is. It worked. He's turned around the Lions. But, Coach, I mean, please, I don't even call you Dan Campbell. I call you Man Campbell. For the love of all things holy, when you get in tight games this season, stay true to you. Go for it for sure. But every now and again, Coach, mix in a punt and a field goal, would you? Just mix it in.
Take
just
the point. Save the momentum.
Yeah, just a sprinkle, baby. I don't want you to change who you are, but let's grow like we ask these players to grow. Just like when you have a running quarterback who's not protecting himself. I want you to be you, but get out of bounds. Slide. Coach, give me a punt or a field goal every now and again. I believe they will. This is the same team. They're running it back as last season. I think they're ticked off for greatness now. Not only do I believe the Lions win this division, I think they go to the Super Bowl.
I love that. You could get Bears, according to FanDuel, to make the playoffs minus 104. So almost even money. You don't even have to bet $110 to get $100 back.
Yep.
That's not a bad pick, in my opinion. And you think about the Bears, the buildup of their defense, how good it was last season. Mm-hmm. And then you obviously have Montez Sweat in there for a full offseason. Mm-hmm. Jalen Johnson as an elite corner. They invested in linebackers. They obviously drafted on the defensive side of the ball. But then, like you said, you have the guy in Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
To cost control offensive tackles each side of the offensive line.
That's right.
Go out, get Roma Dunze. They gave DJ Moore the big extension. You have Keenan Allen on a prove-it deal. Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet. Then you have DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. And you got Caleb Williams, man, who shows the flashes of what the comps are of the Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes in his game. Yep. It's tough for me to bet on a rookie, though, of just how tough that learning curve is going to be with a guy that is great but still has his flaws, but is a starter, no doubt. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers on this one.
Yeah.
They went out and got a guy like Xavier McKinney to be on the bookend of their defense over at safety. Still have Jair Alexander, a great front seven. And Jeff Hafley goes from Boston College as a head coach to the Packers as a defensive coordinator, which kind of like an eyebrow-raising move. Mm-hmm. But this is a guy that wants to get out of college football, most likely with NIL and all that stuff, but has coached in the NFL level before. This defense was good with the talent. They just need to be consistent. And then you know where I stand on this offense, where Jordan Love was an MVP candidate the last 8-10 weeks of last season.
Yes.
Got that taste of winning on the road and blowing up the Cowboys on the road. The Packers win this one, and at 2-1 odds, I like that over a team. Now, the Lions, this is such a tough division. I think the NFC North can be the most competitive, most difficult division in all of the NFL. So maybe I'd want better than 2-1, but I still like that number. I also just like the Packers to win this because I believe in the jump. Jordan Love will be as a second-year starter.
Yep.
And with all these young receivers around him, and Matt LaFleur as well is one of the best play callers. All right, to the NFC South. I think this is an easy one, too. Don't.
I mean, this division sucks.
Oh yeah, okay.
What's even the point? Listen, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna make up some time here. I don't understand. Even though the Falcons got Kirk Cousins and all this nonsense, I, for the life of me, don't understand why people are writing off the Bucs. Baker Mayfield played well. The offensive line's great. I think the Bucs win it again. And the defense, or the division stinks so bad that everyone's just ordaining the Falcons. I'm not willing to do that. I'll take the Bucs because the division's so bad. I'll take the Bucs to win it again by default because I don't believe in Kirk Cousins to win anything. How's that sound? Nothing. I wouldn't trust him on my Spades team. Give me the Buccaneers to win the South. I'm done with Derek Carr. We had a divorce this offseason. I wish him nothing but the best, but there's no love there. I'll take the Bucs to run it back.
The fact that you finally divorced Derek Carr, that's 2 years too late, bro.
I know.
I'm happy for you. Hey, eventually you found the light.
I
and
did.
as your friend, man, I'm just happy for you.
I know.
Let's look forward, not look back.
That's right.
I thought I lost you. I was disappointed, but my boy's back.
No, I'm back, baby.
I'm going Falcons. You're telling me a safety tandem of Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons, who are the two best safeties in the league, in my opinion. Then with the defensive line, where they invested 3 top 110 picks in their D-line this season, go out, trade Matt Judon, and then bring Zach Robinson over from the Rams. So you're going to bring that playbook with a lot of 11 personnel with Darnell Mooney. I didn't even name Drake London first. You know what you get in wide receiver 1 in Drake London, huge red zone target.
Yep.
Kyle Pitts, who is a wide receiver, but let's get him an actual quarterback, which they did. Then you have Darnell Mooney as wide receiver 3 and Bijan Robinson out of the backfield with as good of this Falcons defense is. Again, Raheem Morris, take care of the defense. Zach Robinson, run this offense with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins that can execute indoors. And if you look at their schedule as well, they have 2 cold weather games at Denver, at Washington late in the season. 12 of their 17 games are indoors or an enclosed or retractable roof. Even this team, Falcons, I won't just say bet on them to win the division, minus 145. You could bet over 10.5 wins on an alt win total on FanDuel, plus 154. I think they do that because of how the schedule lays out and the talent on both sides. Maybe people are sleeping on Kirk Cousins with injury history. I like the Falcons in the South. To wrap it all up, NFC West, my man.
Yeah, I'm going to go Niners here, even though I believe the Cardinals are going to be a playoff team. I believe the Rams could be a playoff team. The Seahawks are going to be better than people think. I don't know if they're going to be playoffs or not, but they'll be better than people think. This is going to be a very competitive division. I'm still going to go Niners because I think what's left in that tank will win them a division and not a Super Bowl. I am out on the 49ers now as winning the NFC. I just don't even believe they're getting back to a Super Bowl. I think much like the Bills that I talked about earlier, I think the Niners missed a lot of key opportunities to finally get it done and win a Lombardi. And I believe that ship has sailed now. Good enough to still win this very competitive division, but because the division is better, they're going to lose a pound of flesh to do it. So by the time you get to the postseason, there'll be some other teams set up to be successful and knock them off, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Again, I go back to the Lions should have beat the 49ers in the NFC title game. So I'll take the Niners and win this division, but I don't believe in them beyond that.
I'm taking the Rams. It's all these injuries coming from the 49ers camp that scares me. Like, you draft Ricky Pearsall to be an immediate impact guy, especially in the system.
Yep.
But then there's a report to come out of like, hey, we're hoping that his shoulder wouldn't actually be anything. It turns out it is.
Yep.
Brandon Ayuk's been holding out and or holding in, but hasn't been practicing. How ready will he be? I'm scared of soft tissue injuries.
Yep.
Trent Williams, CMC, a lot of guys banged up. And I'm a big believer in, of course, Kyle Shanahan. I'm a big believer in Fred Warner and Hufanga at safety, who they have. Like, I love this defense. I love this whole nucleus. But you come to the Rams, they put 2 more picks into the defensive line in this draft to replace, obviously, Aaron Donald retiring. Then you get Kobe Turner returning from a good 2023.
Yep.
I think the Seahawks regress. No Dave Canales, no Shane Waldron. I think we see old Geno Smith come back around. It's the Niners injuries. This Cardinals team is still good. Kyler is talented, but I just think that I would pick the Rams in this scenario to win it. Now, you see they're a long shot. It's the Niners minus 190 and the Rams plus 330. But this division with Stafford, with Sean McVay, with the experience that they have, if Stafford's hamstring can be okay, if Cooper Kupp can be healthy, if Puka Nacua, we'll see a step back because the usage won't be there because Cooper Kupp should be healthy. But again, with how deep this receiving room is in LA, and when you have a coach like McVay and a professional quarterback like Matt Stafford and what the 49ers are dealing with, I can see them winning the division. All right, so we're ending with the NFC. Let's go into the NFC as a conference.
Ooh.
Who represents the NFC in the Super Bowl?
I'm going to take the Lions. I just think learning from the experience, and as far as they went last season, now they believe they can win in the playoffs. They believe they can get there. They're certainly not the kind of team that's going to look at their head coach and blame him for the fact that they weren't in the Super Bowl, even though clearly it is his fault. I think they'll look at it and say, that's our guy. We believe in him. We have taken on his identity. We're going to go right back and kick your butt again. I think the Lions make it to the Super Bowl.
So funny enough, I have the Lions now winning the division, getting in as a wild card team, and it doesn't happen often, but I see them as having the nucleus to make it to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And that's where Jared Goff, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Donovan People-Jones, who's okay. Jameson Williams, I don't believe in him, but can Sam Laporta be healthy?
Right.
And then what their offensive line is with all 5 guys are good starters.
Yes.
And then invested in their defense heavy in the draft. We'll have Brian Branch returned for his sophomore season. Then they went out and got 2 cornerbacks like they did this past March and April, and like how they assessed all that.
That's right.
And again, with Ben Johnson still being there as OC, this is a team. They came up short. They got in, came up short. It was their own undoing. They had the Niners beat. That has to be the motivation all offseason long. And it's, you mentioned it with Dan Campbell, the leader he is. This isn't a guy that's going to, we made it to the Super Bowl, we're good. They don't rest on that.
No.
I think they break through and get to the Super Bowl by winning the NFC. What about the AFC winner? Who do you got?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to bet my money on this again, but I'm going back to the well with the Bengals. It's just health. If Joe Burrow's healthy, he's the only guy that can beat Patrick Mahomes that I've seen with thine eyes. So I'll take a shot here for the sake of convo that, the Bengals get back to the Super Bowl. I think if we get a Bengals-Chiefs AFC title game, Joe Burrow can win it. We've seen him do it. So I will take a shot here and go Bengals. Jamar Chase finally back in the fold now with the Bengals practicing. He's going to get paid eventually. I'll go Bengals, Lions, Super Bowl.
Interesting, Jamar Chase showing up.
Yeah. He's going to get paid. He knows it.
I'm looking at this from a fantasy draft perspective because I still have the number 4 overall pick. That changes a lot, but we're talking AFC winners.
Yep.
I said it. Tough for me not to bet on it.
I mean,
until
I
do.
I get it.
The guy was slighted.
I know.
He was told he's a 4th best player in the NFL.
I know.
What?
I know.
What? They returned their core. The wide receiver room is better than it was last year.
Yep.
And an offense that could never figure it out. But what does Brett Veach do as he always does? Like, they assess their issues and actually correct them. And they don't just rely on Patrick Mahomes to bail them out, which he did in the playoffs.
Yep.
And which he did in the Super Bowl with that game-winning drive. I just got to go Chiefs. It's boring. We've never seen a three-peat in the Super Bowl era. I think we see it. How can you not bet on the Chiefs? I'm saying AFC winner. I gave away my Super Bowl pick. Who do you think wins the Super Bowl? I just did it both in one.
Let me say this. So I have Bengals Lions, right? I think Joe Burrow is this generation's Peyton Manning to Patrick Mahomes' Tom Brady. And
come up short, come up short,
yes,
break
what I mean
through.
is Burrow's too great. He's going to get a ring or 2 before his career's over, assuming he can figure out how to stay healthy. And the Bengals can figure out how to keep him healthy. But I just believe in when it's your time. And I think it's Detroit's time. I mean, as a sports town overall, they haven't really won anything of note in a while. And that's a great sports town, and the Lions have been a laughingstock since forever. So I do believe Detroit will get another title now, and I believe the Lions will get it done. I'll take the Lions over the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl winning Detroit Lions.
Isn't that crazy?
That'd be fun, man. Like, how can you not root for that? And there will be the haters along the way of Dan Campbell, the way he carries himself in his press conferences and all that. Mm-hmm. And the window's now. I mean, they just extended Jared Goff.
Yep.
And they just extended Amon-Ra, Penei Sewell.
Yep.
They drafted all these young studs on their defense, like Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have to pay yet. Same with Lee McNeil. Same with Branch. Same with their corners. Same with some of their receivers like Jameson Williams and their weapons like Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep.
I still just got to go Chiefs. I hate it being boring, but like, how can you doubt Andy Reid? How can you doubt Patrick Mahomes?
I can't argue.
And let's not take away of how big of a game the Super Bowl is.
Yeah.
And the guy that's been there and won it 3 times, lost in one of those, could have won another one if D Ford wasn't offsides when Tom Brady threw an interception while targeting Rob Gronkowski. Like, think about all this of how good Mahomes has been. And again, like, you don't want to tug Superman's cape. You don't want to poke the bear. You just don't want to piss Patrick Mahomes off. Number 4, best player, 4th best player in the NFL.
Yep.
Like, the haters are coming out, and you can't even point about distractions with this team because he blocks them out better than anybody. And we'll see what happens with the Rashee Rice suspension because as of the recording of the show, he hasn't been suspended yet, but I expect it will come down this season.
Yep.
When he comes back, if Pacheco can be healthy for the playoffs because that's a running back you trust. Hollywood Brown, can you be healthy? Xavier Worthy, can you make it through? Yep. Travis Kelce, you got one more run in those legs. You get a three-peat and go out like that, man.
Yep.
This team's too good. I just cannot pick against the Chiefs. If I see them coming out of the AFC, that says what I think of them and what they're doing right.
Sure.
And that's why they should win the Super Bowl.
I can't
All right, let's
argue.
wrap this up. This list will have a Chiefs gray on it
Oh.
Nesson, kick, punt returners, Mount Rushmore. We've, surveyed our .com writers, on-air talent producers. Trav, first, I want you to give me, who's your Mount Rushmore of returners in NFL history?
I'll go Devin Hester.
Yes, greatest ever.
I'll go Brian Mitchell.
Ooh, I like that.
I'll go Deion Sanders.
I like it.
And then the human highlight reel, Dante Hall.
Dante Hall, I like it. I go Devin Hester. I mean, most return touchdowns ever, just the best to ever do it. I have Dante Hall, 12 total return touchdowns.
Yep.
I actually put Cordero Patterson in there.
Oh, wow.
Now, I wish he did it his whole career, but his role as a receiver or running back, wherever he's been. But 9 kick return touchdowns, that's the most in NFL history, what he holds.
Yep.
I mean, it's not his entire career, but man, kick returner, he does it great. And then I put Eric Metcalf as my 4th spot. What the final words was for the ballot, Devin Hester, Dante Hall, Eric Metcalf, Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
I left Sanders off. I had Cordero. You left Metcalf on, but you had Brian Mitchell.
Yeah.
right?
There is not a world in which I will ever live and I was an Eric Metcalf fan, where I'll take him over Brian Mitchell. It's just not going to exist. I mean, 2nd all-time in all-purpose yards, a Super Bowl champion. I grew up watching the guy do this in big playoff games, big moments for Washington. The fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame, I think, is a crime. He should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. Brian Mitchell belongs on any Mount Rushmore when you start talking about returners in the NFL in history.
I like that like homeboy callback to you for a guy you grew up watching, a guy that you being in that city have seen play. And obviously it means a lot to him. That's what I think of the person I grew up watching, and we all did. I mean, we all got to see him. Just Devin Hester, going back to his days at the U.
Oh.
Like,
he's the GOAT for this. He's a GOAT.
He makes fast people look slow. That's how fast he was, how good he was. And if it wasn't for his feet, who knows how much longer he could have been and be effective in the league.
That's right.
Then I think of guys like Percy Harvin, who are that flash in a pan of a returner.
Yeah.
Or guys like, I know how good Deion was. I even think of Ed Reed as a punt returner when he would put himself back there because you needed a great play. And this is overall how good Ed Reed was, that he could be a punt returner and take it to the house or a pick 6. But that's where the Devin Hester, Dante Hall is. Then I had to look back of like, all right, I remember Cordell Patterson I read about, and I've watched Eric Metcalf. That's where I get the call back. That's the last one of our Mount Rushmores too, so it was fun. We went quarterback. We did every position group, even kickers, which you loved. Everything but punters.
Thank God. I would have been okay without kickers too, but I thought we got through that well. And look, we did give flowers to the guys we actually do like as kickers.
Yeah.
But as far as punt returners, I don't know if we'll ever get a time in the NFL. Maybe. I know they changed the rules and all that for these kickoffs, but I once upon a time, there were guys you wouldn't even kick to because you knew they could take over the game. You knew one moment could change this whole thing. And so I just don't know if we'll ever really get back to that. With player safety and all that stuff that the NFL's doing now, I feel like we're getting away from an era of a guy like a Devin Hester that you were just wait for him to get the ball and watch what he does. I think we're getting away from that now.
With the new kick return rule and the formation in the landing zone, it will be interesting to see how many we get taken back to the house.
Yeah.
Obviously, there'll be a lot more opportunities, and it is a safer setup as well.
Right.
But then we'll see. I'm interested what numbers we see from the great returners, and if it's skewed of, well, Devin Hester did it when it was old school, and you'd run down and break the wedge and set it. D-Hest, to me, is always going to be the GOAT in this one. So,
well, I tell you what, Devin Hester's a GOAT at this regardless. I mean, that guy, he carried the Bears. Let's just be honest about it. I mean, we just talked earlier in the show how the Bears, I wish I knew what year it was. I swear to God, I believe it's the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Since the last time the Bears had anyone that mattered at quarterback. And they went to a damn Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as a quarterback. And it was because of what? Chicago Bears style. Defense. And Devin Hester was their offense. He was their scoring. So I don't believe we'll ever see that again. And then he did it consistently over his career. I think Devin Hester will go down when all the smoke clears on whoever's career. He'll go down as a GOAT, and he should.
I just remember, I forget, it was a primetime game. He was covering someone as a cornerback, and there was a mic'd up on the sideline. You see who's covering me? It was small little 23, the rookie, Devin Hester, as he was taking a kick return to the house on the field, man. He was so good. You know what's going to go down as a GOAT?
What?
These picks for the 2024 season. Trav, I'm going to frame our
Do it.
our
Me
rundown
too.
printout,
Yep.
and we're gonna look back on this season, and
got
we'll see at
receipts.
the end of the day who had a better average and who hit on more picks.
We got receipts.
He's Travis Thomas. I'm George Balekji. This is Foxboro Rush. Wherever you're listening, please like, subscribe, rate, review. Wherever you're watching, subscribe as well. Follow us on the social channels, along with Nesson on TikTok, Instagram, and X. Same for Travis Thomas Experience. Same for George Balekji. Oh, man, we're so close. The NFL
So
season's
close.
here. Mount Rushmores are done.
Let's
Preseason
go.
picks are done.
Yeah.
So NFL season's almost here. We'll see you next time on the next Foxboro Rush.